Houthi rebels have been attacking commercial shipping vessels traveling through the lower Red Sea since mid-November in response to Israel's bombardment of Gaza. This has caused huge shipping disruptions where Maersk and other shipping groups have had to halt or reroute traffic. Dnyanada Kulkarni from Century Financial explains the impact this has on global trade.
So if you see, as of today, there are 9 out of 10 largest container liners that have already stopped shipping through the Red Sea, and this has impacted about 74% of global supply, and that has impacted 12% of seaborne trades that go through the Red Sea. This situation is akin to the supply chain crisis that was observed during the peak of the COVID pandemic last year, but it is not quite as severe just yet. So despite the disruptions, we believe that there are enough inventories and enough supplies in place to fulfill the requirements of the holiday season. But at the same time, we can expect some shortages by, say, February next year.
While oil and gas companies like BP and Equinox were among the first to divert their tankers from the Red Sea, other companies like IKEA, Mosaic and Danone have already put out statements announcing delays and possible shortages. One of the most prominent alternative routes for these shipments is via the Cape of Good Hope, which adds about 3,000 to 5,000 nautical miles to the journey compared to the Red Sea. As a result, freight costs have shot up drastically.
If you see shipments that stem from Asia to Northern Europe and those that stem from, suppose, say, China to Israel, they've gone up to $2,300 in December, which is up from $1,975 in November. So it's quite a steep increase. And if you look at it from October onwards, since the outbreak of the Israel and Hamas war, the shipments from China to Israel have increased in freight costs from 46% to 58%. And if you look at the freight costs from China to the Mediterranean region, then they have gone up 44% since the beginning of the year and are currently at 2,400. Whereas at the start of the year, they were roughly at around 1,370. And because of the disruptions that have happened, fuel costs have increased by about $1 million per voyage that goes from Asia to Northern Europe. And this has also presented an opportunity for ships to charge new surcharges. And the details of those have not yet been announced officially. And even the cost of insurance has gone up. So it has gone up to about 0.5% of the value of the ship's hull. Whereas last month it used to be somewhere between 0.1% to 0.2%.
This will impact trade volumes and revenues of a lot of countries.
So to give you an example, China is trying to import oil from Saudi Arabia through the Fujairah port. But because of the crisis that is happening in the Red Sea, if that affects the Fujairah port in any way, then it could result in shortages for China as well as increase in costs. And the other thing is it could also further exacerbate the geopolitical tensions, and that could, kickstart another price bidding war, which would affect the trade dynamics severely.
While inflation is expected as a result of these supply chain disruptions, Kulkarni believes that GCC consumers might have an advantage.
We can expect a temporary spike in the prices of the products that are, traveling through the Red Sea. But at the same time, because it has triggered a rebound in the oil prices, which have declined steadily for 7 straight weeks, so that kind of benefits the GCC region. So, it's sort of got a silver lining in itself.
The US said very serious negotiations were now taking place on a new Gaza ceasefire, as many analysts believe that it might be the most prudent solution for the supply chain disruptions at this point.
Right. I think a lot of companies and influential powers, the more they, raise their voices and call for a ceasefire, and more than just raising their voices, intervention is needed to prevent it from escalating further. If that happens, then I think the situation should resolve sooner rather than if it were left to itself.